What's up, guys? I know it's been 5 months since the last time I posted, but better late than never. So today's topic is my current productivity workflow. The main goals of my workflow is obviously to keep me on track, make sure I'm doing all my assignments and all my tasks. But the main goal is to just make me a better learner and better studier, which is the main goal I have currently. So first, I'd like to get into the devices I use. So main powerhouse is the MacBook Air 1, which is I use the M1 chip, and decently priced, especially if you get on Black Friday like I did. And like everything is pretty much on my MacBook, houses everything I do, and probably my most used device out of all my devices. Something that I do use is my iPad Air Gen 4, and as you can see, I have the pencil, which is essential for especially for what I use it for, which is mainly notes, which I will get into later. All right, it's time to get into note taking. I would like to use my iPad to really illustrate how I take notes. I feel like that's ironic. Anyways, all right. So first, we're gonna start with some type of info. This could be a lecture, could be a book. I don't know, anything. And obviously, it's gonna go into my senses. Vision, hearing. I don't need to talk. I don't need to say everything. Depending on the type of information, I use different types of note taking, which is obviously kind of self-explanatory when you think about it, because you don't train the same way for a sprint like you would a marathon. So you have types of note taking techniques. Sometimes different types of apps to best consume a certain type of information. So I am an avid reader. So in terms of taking notes for books, I would use Obsidian. So if you don't know what Obsidian is, it's basically just an app where you could make notes as files, and you can link those notes together with other notes that have similar topics or adjacent to each other. And although it's a simple topic, it's very powerful because one, there's a lot of community plugins that you can add in, which can be overwhelming. But me personally, I keep it kind of simple, minimalistic. Only have a few plugins, which is Latex Suite and Quick Switcher Plus Plus, which isn't really necessary. I just use Latex Suite the most, which is just a plugin for math when I take math notes. But there's a bunch of videos online of Obsidian if you want to learn more about it. But I would recommend, if you don't know what Obsidian is, I would recommend looking into it now, because the great thing about Obsidian is the more it appreciates and value the more you use it. So as time goes on and you have more and more and more notes, the more notes you have, basically, the more useful it becomes. So aside from books, let's say like it's pretty much like any other type of information, mainly conceptual type information, like science type lectures, or maybe like math. I use mostly just mind maps. This here is my first sketchbook that I got in, I think, July, June, somewhere around there. And basically the reason behind mind maps or sketchbook or just stuff like that in general is to get rid of linear note taking, which is not the best when you think about it, because our brain works as like neural pathways, or similar to what a mind map is, where it's just like connections between things, and not really in like a heading, bullet point, definition type format, which the school education usually enforces. Now for mind maps, I use this app called Concepts, which is the thing I'm using right now. The best part about it is that it's infinite canvas, and it has a good amount of freedom. I used to use a sketchbook actually to draw my mind maps, but obviously it's not. It has limited space, and it's not as portable as an iPad. So getting an iPad was very useful in this circumstance. So in terms of conceptual information, I use Concepts. And then after I create the mind map, I then log it into my Obsidian app. So in pretty much every type of information, it kind of ends up in Obsidian. It's just depending on the type of information, I might take some extra steps to get into that ending point. So Obsidian is my like main like knowledge like management bank, and it's very good just because of the way that it uses like the Feynman technique. And if you don't know what the Feynman technique is either, it's basically just imagine that you're explaining something to like a younger version of yourself. Basically, it's just breaking down your information like in very simple terms. And this is good because it allows you to know exactly what you do know and what you don't know. In terms of how I track my studying, I use this app called YPT or Yapomta. It's basically just an app that you could like track your studying. Whenever you're like studying, reading, whatever, you just hit the play button, goes. Another really good thing about it is it has this thing called like study groups, so you can join groups up to 50 members, and you can meet new people with people that are passionate about learning, passionate about studying, which is really good. Another great thing is that it has a built-in Pomodoro timer, and if you don't know what the Pomodoro technique is, it's basically just you have like a focus time and then you have a break time. So for example, for your focus time, let's say you have like an hour long focus time, and then for your break time like 10 minutes, and you just repeat those. So like 1 hour 10 minutes, 1 hour 10 minutes, 1 hour 10 minutes, and just make sure that your brain doesn't go through like mental fatigue, and make sure that like you're maximizing your deep work within your studying. So YPT has like helped me for sure to like make sure like it gives me insights into like my studying and how much I study in a day, and it makes me like, let's say at the end of the week I want to like look back and see what I did right, what I did wrong. The app gives me like more concrete insights than just like my thoughts. So in terms of how I do keep track of my assignments, I use Notion, which is probably the most used productivity tool out there. So let's say I want to put an assignment. So right now I'm making a YouTube video, so I'll put that in the name slot. And then I just put it in the subjects that I've already laid out in front of me, which is YouTube, obviously. And I'll pick the due date. So, today is the due date, basically. And then, I'll put the status, but it's usually just not started when I put it in the to-do list. So, previously I did just use notes, like, on my iPhone to keep track of my assignments. But, like, it was kind of limited in terms of how I could, like, organize it. So, thankfully my brother, put me on Notion. I knew of it before, but it was kind of, like, all the different options and layouts kind of, like, overwhelmed me. But like since he kind of introduced me, put me on what he uses, like kind of like a minimalistic type to do list layout. I just like adopted that, and with the option that Notion gives you, it is better than Notes if you're like able to use it right. So all the options just makes it more organized for me, which is obviously better. Yeah, that is my workflow. Hope you enjoy the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the post notice. I don't know. I don't know if you should at this point. Comment what you want to see next, and stay kind.